So Susan Johnston, Johnston? I got that
Yeah.
right. All right, I got it. I'm like a name expert. New Media Festival. I've been getting your newsletters for years now, and of course, I'm guilty of being a procrastinator and saying, "Oh, I have to," some of my web series or some of my, my YouTube films. I gotta send over there and submit to them somehow. But of course, I'm a procrastinator, and next thing I know, I've worked on 10 other people's films as an AD or an actor or something, and then finally get around to something. But even better, I got you on here. We can talk about that. So New Media Festival. Tell me a little bit more about who you are, what you do, what you've been up to.
Okay, so one, I love the fact that you've been receiving our newsletters and actually engaging with them, and that it inspired you to connect and bring me on. I'm delighted to be here today. So I love that you said New Media Festival because we have both. So we've been around for 13 years as newmediafilmfestival.com. And then one day, several years ago, I'm like, oh, well, let me just grab a couple of domain names that people may type in. And that was one of them. So if you go to newmediafestival.com, you'll get to the same place. What have I been doing lately? Wow. Okay. So we just had our 12th New Media Film Festival. So we had 28 best of category winners. Our nominees pivoted online this year, so the entire festival was online. And
Mhm.
people who know me, I don't like to do things the way anyone else does it. I just don't. I can't do it. Like
Right.
my body will not move in that direction. So what a learning curve. Like it took me 2 months. And honestly, it was nice to know that it went off great. Sure, there were a couple of hiccups, but like you and I were talking earlier, technology, it can be your best friend and it can be your worst nightmare in the same day, but we volleyed back. Great team, great stories. So now what I'm doing is all that stuff I didn't do for those 2 months, right? Like we offer distribution to those that fit the profile of what is wanted right now,
Mhm.
from all the submissions this past year, whether they were accepted as a nominee or not. So that takes a lot of time. We also have relationships with new platforms. I literally was just emailing earlier. We got an offer from Brazil on a film, and they wanted to give a flat rate for a 2-year period. So then just sort of give people idea of what direction we go. Then, we had to ask, okay, well, how are you charging the people? And so they had 3 verticals of the way to charge, which meant 1,000 wasn't, it was $1,000, right? For this 1 45-minute piece, which meant they could use it as many times as they wanted. But when you look at it that way, and you look how many people are in Brazil, and we just said, you know what? That's not enough for the content creator. So all we did is we went back and we said, hey, we like your agreement. We like your offer. Thank you. Would you consider that the moment you recoup your 1,000 US dollars that you paid for this content creator,
Right.
now we split? And we actually gave them a very generous split. Usually it's 70-30, 70 to the content creator, say that was me, and 30 to the platform. But because they hadn't offered any before, and we don't know, they're not a company that's been around and is huge, we said 30%. And so they're looking at that. And we go, yay. We go, yay, because we got 30% more for the content creator. We have a new territory, a new company. We can measure how this does. And if it does well, then we can put other titles in there. And it's a 45-minute film that is really a great film. It helps the filmmaker. So to me, it's a win-win everywhere. And honestly, my dad used to say to me, something is worth what someone wants to pay for it,
Yeah.
and then or what you value it for. So some people may be going, oh, that's not a lot of money. And then some people are going, yeah, that's pretty damn good for a brand new company, 2 years flat right up front, no question. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there you have
So
it.
in the last year, you mentioned a couple of films. In the last year, what are some films, some web series, some new media projects that stood out?
Oh, okay. So, okay. So I have to ask because there's two different things. So there were some that were not accepted into the festival,
Okay.
and then there were some that were. And so on the ones that were, it's really interesting because, I mean, you can go to our events page right now, newmediafilmfestival.com, click events, and you will see 2021's programming through the end of this year. And what's interesting is, I'll start programming and I'll go, oh, I think this one's going to win, or, oh, this one. And then the judges come on board, the reviewers come on board, whether they want to be part of the festival or not. Some people back out last minute because other festivals say you can't have a premiere anywhere else or you can't screen anywhere else.
Right.
And one film tried to pull out the week before. And, obviously, if we advertise you, we have a legal responsibility that we have to honor that advertising. So I said, look, if you really want this other festival bad enough, I will give you the feature length version, but I'm going to keep the trailer as the Los Angeles premiere because I need to honor my word in print. And they said yes. And then I called one of my advisors and I said, oh my gosh, these people left our festival to go somewhere that I went to their website. They didn't say who the judges were. They didn't say what they were going to win. A lot of it was like hot air because, if you're doing this for 13 years, it's fine. You can spin anything you want. And I just went, do they understand that they pulled something when all these companies know they were part of it because they were reviewing and judging it? HBO, Marvel, Emmys, Oscars,
Yeah.
PBS, BBC. But you know what? I kept my mouth shut. I can't always do that. But I was like, look, you want to free up almost 2 hours of my time? Free up 2 hours of my time. It is not for me to tell you this is probably the silliest move you're going to make all year.
Yeah.
And bye-bye.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to let you know that may have won. That may have won the grand prize.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Everything's such a gamble. And honestly, I've made, in your eyes, I've made that mistake. But to my eyes, it worked out, and it might not have been Marvel, it might not have been HBO, but it worked out in such a way that someone grabbed it and then it turned into 4 more things. And I look back and I say that did turn into 4 more things.
Okay, but this is good information, right? I'm glad you're showing me the other side of it.
Listen, at the end of the day, just like with the quarantine and just like with struggling to work in our passion and do what we love, you have to find the positives in everything. And it's like, listen, I missed out working with Bruce Willis and Will Smith, but I ended up working with Christopher Walken and somebody on some bizarre movie, whatever the case may be. And it was so fun to work on that film, because then you hear later down the road, maybe working with some of these big name actors is such a nightmare. But you work with like some weird actor that you kind of have a man crush on, or you've watched his stuff.
Got a bond forever, right?
And it was such a fun experience, and it was such a B movie, and maybe the movie wasn't as good as that A-list Hollywood movie, but you had like the best time. You made some good money, you made some connections. And so, back to what you're saying, it's like, absolutely, you also have to be patient. Someone submitted to you. If I were to submit something, there is that honor and that integrity. Like, listen, I submitted to you. I know you put in this much of work with new media for my product, for my product.
Yeah, whatever it is.
For my thing.
It could be your podcast, it could be your script, it could be your music video, it could be your VR, your feature, whatever.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, that's been greenlit. It's important to read that fine print and say, listen, Rogues Gallery is sticking with New Media Festival, and the story.
Mm-hmm.
And let that ride. There's also that patience.
But to your point, and I love that you showed me the reverse side of the coin, right, so to speak. But I also feel that people are doing the best with what they have in front of them at that moment. And I, honestly, who am I to judge? But I am saying and I say this when I teach as well or give advice, I just say from my life's experiences,
Yeah.
that would have not been the wisest decision for me. But you're absolutely right. They're making the best decision for them at that time. And, Godspeed to them, right?
It's swerving left or swerving right. It's fight or
Yeah.
flight. It's fight or flight, really. It's fight or flight, really. And but I think at the end of the day, yes, I'm agreeing with you more in the sense. Of course, I've got to play devil's advocate, but but I have to agree with you more because it has to be understood what you guys are putting in. And
so we don't make any money, right, for all the work we do for you, press releases, social media, maybe opportunities for other festivals. We have partnerships, with the United Nations. We have partnership with National Geographic for content, to screen, to be in other competitions. And we don't want to start monetizing that because that's an added value we give just for, being part of us. And hopefully people know that.
Yeah.
But again, I think, for me, I have issues with business acumen, and I fully own it. I must have been.
You're not alone.
Yeah, it's like, I just want you to honor your word. I grew up on the East Coast. The only reason why you have an agreement so you don't both forget 3 months down the road. You're reminded. It's not selective memory. So it's not the contract. And then, and what I'm finding in this new day and age, which is really interesting, someone called it, I'll just say it because it wasn't me. They said there's not a generation. I want to say, I don't know what the right word is. Let's just say culture. There's a culture of people that say, I want what I want, and I want it now, and I want it this way. Regardless of how your company is structured, what you promise to deliver, but because they've experienced it or seen it, or just feel that if they scream loud enough and long enough, they'll get what they want. And I look at that and I go, that's a 2-year-old temper tantrum. So we've got to kind of look at, we never offer that service. We never said we did. So you demanding it, and I don't know how to get it to you because I don't have it.
Yeah. No, I can't agree with you more. I've personally cut ties, even burnt bridges, with folks that can't keep their word. And I will even say to somebody, like,
yay for you, yay for you.
we are doing this at this time. This is what we're all doing. This is yes. Okay. And then people start dropping out and breaking their word. Oh man, I was just too tired. Like, I don't care, dude. Like, I'm tired too. And it's things that there was a documentary I produced, and there was a whole 2-week trip to Chicago involved in this documentary, and I planned and produced that whole thing. And then later on, they're trying to get the hard copies, the original hard copies of the releases of all the people that they interviewed. I said, I'll send you Xeroxes, and I'll send you Xeroxes. It's too easy. And they were coming up with BS about like, oh well, HBO. I know somebody from HBO, and they're talking about, like, that's fine. That they don't need the original hard copies. And I was like, finally, like, dude, why do you need the originals? And it's like, I don't want you to have them. I'm like, well, I'm keeping them. Why? Because these are basically hand receipts that I worked on it, and I'm going to get my cut. Well, what cut are you expecting? Whatever cut you're expecting. And that's when the conversation turned into like, a Putin Biden kind of fucking conversation where it's like, listen, I'm not, what I'm
it's intellectual property, right? It's
right.
So I try to look at people and say, maybe they've received bad advice, because, and maybe that's what they're following, but I don't know. So you ended up keeping that, right? You never.
Of course, I've got it locked in some folder, in some box, in some shelf, in some storage somewhere. Yeah. And it's
can I share a funny story with
absolutely.
you?
That's
So my
what this.
very
That's what this is about. Yeah.
Okay, so my very first film was 35 millimeter. I had to make 35 millimeter because I was the tester for HD, and I'm like, oh, 35 is going to go away. So I have to be careful what I say because I don't want this person to be found out. So my sound guy needed my canisters so he could, do what he needed to do. Well, then he didn't want to give them back to me for whatever reason. So I got dressed up in my hottest dress, knocked on his door. How you doing? Pretended he didn't even have them, right? How you doing? Let's have a drink. Let's talk about the shoot, right? Now he drinks a lot. So he's drinking, he's showing me his awards, he's showing me this poster. And as he's showing me these things, I'm pouring my drink in his plants. And then he gives me another drink and another drink. His plants got fed that day. I think I was there 3 hours just talking the shit, as they say, right? And he got so drunk he passed out. Well, I got my canisters and I left.
And killed his plants. Got his plants drunk, or maybe.
I think his plants were happy.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So
I thought that was the side prank. Was you were poisoning his plants? Okay.
But the point was, is I wanted him to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
To drink as much as he was drinking. They're on a friendly, crew sort of thing.
Yeah. My
goal was to get the canisters he was holding hostage for no reason. I mean, he had gotten paid what we said he would get paid. It was, I don't, sometimes stuff goes on in your life where you go over the deep end in a totally different area. I
think mentally people go off on a deep end, or the people are just like, what do you need them for? Like if I was the guy and I'm saying to you, like, now what do you need them for? Let me just, because
you knew what he was going to do with them. That's right. He was just, you knew that. That's why you didn't give him. That was smart.
Well, in your case, in your story,
mine, I don't know.
He's just, I think he's just, yeah, and greed and laziness. There's all these different aspects that the
so maybe he felt undervalued, but I don't know how, right?
Going back, I have a similar story. So there's a family member that got a bunch of stuff from a grandparent that passed away. All this stuff, they were taking all this stuff out of the house, and there was all these different conflicting, permissions about who can go in and take what. And the only thing me and my brother ever wanted were these 35 millimeter slides. You remember the slide projector?
Oh, I do.
And I said, hey, all I really want, but I was in the military at the time, and these family members, they claimed to be very pro-military. One of them was in Vietnam, and so the wife was, claims to be very pro-military and very pro-vet. And I was in the military, and I was stationed in Virginia on a post while everybody was dealing with the house. And I said, for the next 3 days, I cannot come out there. I have to report to duty. I can come out there this date. And they said, don't worry about it. We'll be done by then, but don't worry about it. So fast forward a year, I think it was fast forward a year. And I say, hey, did you guys ever get a hold of those 35 millimeter slide prints and I can digitize them. And she said, I'm very disappointed with how everybody, handled the house. And I'm like, we talked about that. She goes, well, I'll tell you what, you can sign a contract saying you're going to send them back. And I was like, never mind, I don't want them.
Oh my gosh.
And you're right. It's a point of like, I have them now. I have this thing. I have power. And these are people, the guy's a sound guy in film. You've made it, bro. But a lot of times these are people with absolutely nothing going on with their life. And I've talked about these kind of folks on the show before, people that are racist, people that are homophobic, people that have problem with same-sex relationships or transgender relationships in movies and in the commercials, and they always bitch and moan about it. And like, then you have any idea how much content there is out there to watch? How many different things are on Netflix? How many different streaming services you have?
Flip the channel.
Flip the channel.
If you don't like the direction you're going, pivot. But I want you for your service, by the
Oh
way.
yeah, of course. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
appreciate
Thank you
that.
for your support.
Yeah. Well,
But
I want to tell you, I actually went to a military burial in Arlington. And pretty talking about Vietnam, Raul Mangialiardi, his dad, unfortunately went down in a plane in Vietnam, and there was a new DNA process, so they could confirm it was him.
mm,
I mean, those stealth, I'm going to call them stealth bombers. I don't know what they were. The stealth bombers going above.
mhm.
I mean, there was this woman playing tap, and she just did it so solemnly, like near a tree, the casket with the flag. I mean, I got goosebumps, talking about it. It was such, an honor to be part of that.
Yeah,
And witness sort of the loyalty and the camaraderie and the honor and the pride and all that. So and to be found that many years later after Vietnam, the son can now rest a little easier. He's not, it's clearly that's my dad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've witnessed one from afar. I was there for a project, and I saw one. We didn't film it. We were filming something else. And yeah, they are intense. They're pretty deep. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of effort. The I think they're called the old guard there
Yes.
at Arlington. That's a job. That is a career, actually, to guard and to honor uh those Joes. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so I really feel blessed. I really feel blessed to have been there. So yeah, thank you for your service.
oh well, I appreciate that. But going like you were saying, going back to like these folks, it's just it's trial and error with a lot of people with relationships. I was 37, 36 or 37 when I was 36 when I met my wife, and
Mhm.
immediately knew I wanted to marry her. But there was a whole, trust me, there was a whole lot of trial and errors when it comes to those kind of relationships,
Oh, sure, because
and it's just, I think a lot of people don't know what they want. They have a pretty good idea that going back to that one guy that they were trying to cut me out of the project. And another reason why is because he was spending like over a year trying to edit 2 10-minute scenes of the documentary.
oh,
And it's one of those things where he's kind of the director. He's co-produced it with me, and he's now trying to edit it. But if you go back, you realize I'm the one that got all the equipment. I'm the one that pretty much organized the entire Chicago trip, which was, I think, 7 to 10 days. And then he's like, "Hey, I'm editing it. Do you want my help?" No. Fast forward a year. Well, you were never there for the editing process. You didn't want me there. You didn't want me there.
well, I call that, remember, selective memory. I said that
Of
earlier.
course.
So, I mean, I'm not, I don't know. I can be diplomatic, right? But I like to be more like XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so the delivery was supposed to be on February 14th. Is everything okay? Because I haven't heard from you. You've been AWOL for a little
Yeah.
while. And then you just got to do what you got to do. But I find it interesting that you were talking about the pandemic. You know, a lot of people did pivot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people made COVID type films. A lot of people took the stuff that they had, in their closets and their drawers.
And they
They
finished it.
and they finished it, and I'm so
Yep.
happy for them, because I think the longer it stayed in the drawer or on the shelf, the less likely they were going to do that. And we have a motto that you could be ahead of your time. I remember our very first year, I think we had a film from we had literally a 35 millimeter film from 1987, and it was called The Beast. And I had just gotten done watching about 5 horror films, although, I like horror films. I can't watch more than 5 in a day. And so I called Noel and I said, Noel, I can't do it. It's called The Beast. He goes, Susan, I can't do it. You have to watch it. And sure enough, it wasn't a horror film. It was a beautiful story about a chimpanzee and the doctor that would, use him as a lab rat.
Mm-hmm.
and they were talking about and he was before a judge about the humanity of it all, and how he kills them when he's done with them, and that they should live instead. Remember 1987.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell you how it ends because I want people to watch it. So anyways, that first festival was 2010, and Roderick asked me as we were walking into the theater. He said, "Why did you accept my film?" I said, "Because it's beautiful." And I mean, on all levels. And he said, "Yeah, but it was made in 1987. I said, "A good story is timeless."
Yes.
Like look at Cinema Paradiso now. And he told me that was the last time ever that film could be shown in 35 millimeter because it was dissipating that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to tell you how smart he was. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
He brought potential backers for his next project to see his 1987 film being shown in 35 millimeter in a theater in 2010. You bet he got funding for those projects.
Because at some point he finally got around to finishing that 20-year-old film, right?
No, it
Oh.
had won every award to mankind. Like I think it won Cannes, I think it won Venice, I just remember he was like, I looked and I went, oh, he's like won every award. So just so you know, we watch the content first, or
Mm-hmm.
we don't look at your bio, we don't do that. Your content speaks for itself. And one year I was pleasantly surprised to know that Whiskey Salesman, which was Chip Taylor, how did I know? He wrote Wild Thing, Wild Thing.
Oh yeah. Chip Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then Angel of the Morning, just
Mm-hmm.
call the angel. And I'm like, oh my God, how cool is that? Like
Yeah.
songs I love, and here's the guy that wrote them, so but his content made it before we even knew who he was. So that was like a nice added bonus.
I mean,
So anyway, the upswing of the pandemic was that people did finally, dust off what they had, buff it up.
I
and
did.
get it there. Good. What did you do?
Oh, I'm still so I had the second season of these two different web series in the can. We shot it God knows how long. And it's like, oh man, gig after gig after gig, on set, on site, on location, out in the field, whether I'm acting or whether I'm crew or whether I'm, crew or whatever. But and then it hit. And so this podcast is actually the third attempt. And me and some colleagues tried out this podcast again for the third time, the whole Zoom virtual thing during the pandemic. But I had these two different shows, the second seasons of these two different shows on a hard drive, and quarantine hit, I think March 12th. I had my kid in a bassinet editing, and I would stay at night. The wife would be up during the day, and I would stay up at night, and I got a second bassinet. I'm just there editing, and knocked out these things probably in a week. And then it's like, all right, what's next? And there was a short which I had in mind for New Media Festival. There's a short that I shot years ago. Everything, when you talk about one of those productions where everything goes wrong, like the sound guy had to drop out, and for good reason, and no hard feelings.
Yeah, because life happens. I mean, life just happens. Right?
Yeah, and I even had him on the podcast, recently, talking about other stuff, because when he had to drop out, absolutely, by all means, couldn't get anybody in time. And so what I did was I would hit record on everybody's lab on the recorder and leave it running. So we had a 4-hour audio, clip for the day for each actor, and then I have to sync. So I think I finished syncing this thing like a couple of months ago, and now it's time to go over my shot list, mark script, put that up. And then
see how close you are now.
Yeah,
right, to finishing.
Yeah, because
you can't make money if it's not out there. and not everybody, like, some companies are picking up content regardless of what it is, right?
Done is better than perfect.
Oh my God, yes, because guess what? Perfection is facetious. Like you can
Yeah.
continually seek perfection, because when will it ever be perfect?
And
for
no
you?
one's ever going to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Some money is better than no money,
And to touch upon this note, you said, cinema is timeless, or art is timeless. And the first thing that came to my mind was Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, wasn't that a fun film?
But what year does that movie take place?
70s or 80s maybe?
No, I think it takes place the modern year.
Oh, okay, whatever you're
came
watching
out.
it. I have no idea.
It was released in somewhere between 03 and 05 maybe.
Okay.
And I think, but that style, they had choices of music that were from the 80s and 90s. Jamiroquai did the song, but Jamiroquai wasn't even doing music until late 90s to early 2000s, and he did that main song he danced to. They had other 80s songs like that, the girl dressed kind of like in the 80s style, but and they took advantage of that weird timeless.
Yeah, it had that vintage sort of vibe to it that was familiar.
That town is probably that town probably shops at Salvation Armies and Goodwills and thrift stores. There might be a Walmart there, but not at that time. So that was the beauty of that movie. There's this timeless thing where people that are 80s heads and 90s heads and then 2000s heads could all enjoy it
on some level. Exactly.
Because the dumb shit that he did in that movie, and then as he stepped up to be a hero, and everybody could identify with that. All those 80s, all those 80s movies where it ends with that crowd clap, that slow clap, that 80s thing. They kind of played on that. It was a uproarious applause at the end. The dorky picked on kid. But again, that if you go back and watch that movie, there's really no way of trying to decipher what year it takes place, because the older brother was chatting with LaFonda, instant messaging her, but he was using AIM, or maybe he was using an old internet chat room, remember chat rooms, like way back in like the early 90s, chat rooms. I mean, God knows how they were communicating on a computer. And none of that is really, I think she gave him a pager, she got him all decked out in like, hip hop, kind of like a hip hop style clothing. And he had a pager. So
I had a pager when I moved to Los Angeles in 2000. So I know it was still in existence then.
I had a pager like from 98 to 01. I had a pager. Yeah.
And that pager got me jobs. Yep. Because I tell people, call me anytime you need me. And I would get calls at midnight. I would get calls at 2:00 in the morning. We need someone in San Diego at 6:00, first shot filming. So yeah, I was like, I miss my pager, because, sometimes a cell phone, that stupid little thing in the corner, shuts your ringer off. You don't know how you click that button.
Yeah.
And you don't get the call, or you're in a dead cell zone. But for some reason, that pager
always got the beeps.
Always got you.
And back then you could always find a phone or a pay phone.
Yes.
And I had
pay phones. I miss pay phones.
I had a calling card. I had a calling card number and PIN memorized. You remember back when we had numbers memorized, and I still remember my mom's house.
I remember my grandmother's,
yeah.
And she's been gone since early 90s.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I remember I feel
like telling it to you, but then everybody was in the house.
I'll try to call it and see.
They'll call and ask for Palmina.
Yeah. And going back to another thing, you mentioned the word AWOL. And yes. going back to my military career, and we had a lot of folks, National Guard and Reserves is a little bit different than active duty, but even with active,
I'm not judging that word, right? I'm not judging it. I grew up with an older brother who incessantly watched war movies. So my version of AWOL is from those movies. I literally don't know what it means in your world.
Well, it stands for absent without leave.
Okay,
And so someone doesn't show up for drill, someone doesn't show up for formation, someone,
okay.
and you get a lot of soldiers that are like, ah, forget it, you know, and like, hey, listen, if you're 18 and older, in my eyes, you're a grown ass adult. You're a grown up.
Just
You're
tell me you don't want to come to work. Don't just go missing.
and there's, you know, you can call me and tell me what the situation is with some advance notice. And like with our like with this podcast, I sent you a note real quick. Hey, it's about 12:15, 12:20. We're set to go on at 12:30. Give me a few extra minutes, rebooting the thing. I'm gonna let you know, right? But there are
Mhm,
people that just decide to not show up.
mhm.
And they're like, well, that's just National Guard. You guys are a joke. Number one, you put in your word.
National Guard is not a joke.
You swore you
They
swore an
go in
oath.
areas when they're needed.
You swore an oath. This is military, regardless. Yes, there might be problems with leadership or peers or subordinates or leaders. There might be problems with all of them,
That's
but
in every sector, don't you think?
but
Yeah.
that is going to transfer into all your other work.
Yeah,
It's going to, and
yeah.
so it, like I'm gonna write up a counseling. I'm gonna write up an AWOL letter. I'm gonna write up a negative counseling. I'm gonna do all this, that, and the other thing for the soldier that's AWOL. But I'm not going to associate with you. I'm not going to look at you as a potential, oh man, you should put me in my movie. Absolutely not. You won't show up. Well, that I would. No, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't show up for this.
Right.
No, you definitely wouldn't show up. And so you definitely won't show up for your civilian job as a firefighter or a cop or you know, a security analyst at a credit card company. You won't show up for work then because screw it, you know, because that will transcend into other avenues. Ah, screw it.
So I think you're talking about communication, right?
Not only commu- not
Yeah,
only commu-
honoring
not only communication, but honoring what you said you would do.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you don't plan on it, please at least communicate so I'm not standing there. I remember once I was casting a very big project. It
Mm-hmm.
paid $2,000 an episode. And obviously that was at least 10 years ago. So that was no small chump change. The episodes were, you know, in the street reporting. And I saw 700 people in one day and my cameraman didn't show up, just decided not to show up. So of course, I'm calling my other cameraman that I use, but now they know they weren't my first choice. So that person doesn't understand the cause and effect of calling me like maybe an hour before. Thank you for calling me, but an hour before and going, yeah, I'm not coming in today. Maybe they got a better paying job. I don't know. Maybe they ran into their ex-girlfriend and wanted to rekindle a love affair. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to know the detriment that caused, because now I had to call people that now knew they were not my first call on that shoot.
Right.
And I had to run camera until someone showed up. And guess what? I never hired that person again, and they don't understand why. And I'm at the point now where I don't tell them, if you can't figure it out for yourself, like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a testament to your legacy. And
But
people
that's
don't.
700 people. Do you know
It's
how many, how hard that is?
it's
That's
just
too
it's
hard.
just it's just a casting on Friday. Come on, Susan, relax. It's just one day drill. It's
Yeah.
it's just a one it's just a 1 day drill. You know where they're going to cut us out early anyway. So why even show up?
Well, I'll share one other thing because I think it will help the audience of talent, right? So if people want to see my casting site, it's susanjohnstoncasting.com, because I still get hired. I mean, I don't put myself out there, but people I've worked with before call me and I love them, and they're great fun, and they're great fun. So 700 people, 2,000 an episode, you know, you were going to get picked up for at least, I guess, 13. So a good chunk of change, good company. I would say 95% of the people, 95% of the people that showed up look like they just came out of a gym class. Now, if you're going to be an on-the-street reporter, maybe reporting on NASCAR, maybe reporting on the new rocket that's going to go up, are you going to look like you just came out of the gym? No. So you know what's really sad? Me personally, I couldn't give them the top 10 people. And they were like, what? Like, they didn't think I did my job. I said, no, I did my job. I don't have 10 people to give you. These are the only ones I have.
Because they all just walked in from the gym or whatever. Yeah.
And they never hired me again. And I don't blame them, actually. I really don't. But what was I going to do? I looked through the image, like I looked through the pictures. I brought them up. I said, you know, you need to be camera ready. You know, how you're going to be in the street is how you're going to be in this audition, because
Was all
that's what
that was all of that in the casting notice?
all of it.
So if they can't read a
Correct.
casting notice, they can't read a
Don't
script.
get me started.
If they can't read a casting notice, they can't read a script. So
Or they can't follow directions.
you can't, if you can't follow directions, then you can't be directed
Yes, thank
by
you.
a director.
Thank you for not making me say that.
It's that simple. So it's like, what the shit are you doing here? Okay.
That's
so
why I didn't have 10 to give them.
oh,
See?
I got 700 background. If you want to fill that restaurant,
Oh,
I got
that's a
700.
great idea. Oh
I
my
got
God.
700.
Yeah, but the problem is those people think they're worth 2K an episode, but they didn't dress for 2K an episode.
And here's another problem with that. I have had, see, listen, I started acting because I have the military and the military police background. So I take all the, first and foremost, I say, everybody typecast me, law enforcement roles, military roles,
Yeah, no, it's
lawyer
great
roles,
skill.
corporate roles.
Yeah.
Typecast me. I'm the one actor that wants to do that in every single show. I'll be the new Munch, you know, Belzer, he plays Detective Munch in Homicide, Law and Order, then Law and Order SUV, and he's been playing the same character. Ice-T is about to break the record, but he's been playing the same character. Actually, no, Marissa something on SUV is about to beat Munch's record for playing that character for so long, and I'll do that. Because it's work. I'm working in film.
Oh, good. I'm glad you put it out there, because now they know how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
What I do is when I cast, I throw the casting out there. It has exactly the information that someone needs to know to determine whether or not they're right for it, they're available, etc. Union, non-union, where it's located. And then those that submit, one would presume that they've read it and they're right for it and they're ready. And I do that because I used to go through my files. I used to carry my headshots in the back of my car, because I would get calls like, someone didn't show up to set, who do you got? And I'd have them by union, non-union, you know, ages and etc. But then the computer, you know, it all went online, right? So then it made it easier to go online. But the reason why I throw a casting net out is I want you to read that and tell me that you're interested, versus me calling you and pitching you and saying, hey, do this show. So there's a free casting notice at SusanJohnstonCasting.com. Just fill that in, and when I have a casting, it goes out.
Hell yeah.
It's that simple. I've cast people from that all the time. But let's get back to story. I'm curious if you've done any military, because we started with that. What have you done in military stories? Have you done scripts or docs or shorts? I'm wondering, because it sounds like you'd have some good stories there.
So
you know?
I am working on a documentary where one of my colleagues, his dad, defected from Soviet Estonia.
Oh, wow.
So sort of, definitely political.
Yeah.
Maybe military, because what's funny is when he came to the States, he became a lawyer, and he always gave Don, my best friend, his son. So Adir is the guy I interviewed, and I'm kind of doing like a new media documentary. It's not too in depth, but it's kind of a half pitch, half documentary. Anyway, when he came to the States, he became a lawyer and a patent expert. I think he became a lawyer after that, because he would always give me and Don basic legal advice. No, you're not allowed to do that because such and such. You should sue them because of such and such, you know. And he would write us up. He would write us up some draft letters to send to people to scare people, and it always helped. But over there, what's funny, he was, I think, a TV producer or AV, audio video producer, you know, for Soviet communist-based Estonia broadcasting. and but he defected. He couldn't stand it. He's also Jewish, and he had a huge issue with the way Jews were treated. I think the KGB, in most part, was, if not still, anti-Semitic. I know Putin's regime right now is a bit anti-Semitic.
I have no idea. So,
I think so.
I mean, I have one.
I know they're definitely homophobic as far as being racist and anti-Semitic and Islamophobic. I think so as well. But so as far as that documentary goes, that's about as military as I get. Joining the military, for me personally, joining the military was something I'd never done. I wanted to do, and I did it at 31. I joined the National Guard and went to basic at 31. So I'm like, here's this old body getting like, broken up and fixed. I was in the best shape of my life at 31, as opposed to my 20s and teens. But for me, not necessarily, military projects, military films. The Rambos. I love, I love the Rambos and the command and the Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List. Those sort of films I'd love to make. I have some ideas, in outlines that eventually I gotta, put into a treatment, put into a detailed synopsis, and then write a script. Sure, but for me. And it's funny it's funny you brought this up, because if there is such thing as magic on Earth, people don't believe in magic. Filmmaking,
it's
cinema
absolutely magic.
Don't
you think so?
Is magic. The technique,
absolutely.
CGI, video games,
makeup, hair,
lighting, makeup, props. People are cosplayers. Look at all these cosplayers and what they're able to pull off. And I've always enjoyed Predators and the Captain Americas and the Avengers and Star Wars more than anything else, because we experience real life day to day all the time. The magic of film is that escape. And I've brought this up a million times on this show before. Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and Han Solo, they do exist, don't they? You could tell me their background, and you could tell me how they're related. So they do exist. Superman does exist. Batman does exist in such a way because of that magic of storytelling, imagination turned into
and the archetypes too.
And look at the evolution. I mean, Batman was a radio serial in the 20s and 30s, turned into a show, turned into a comic book, turned into an animated series, turned into a whole bunch of movies.
And a lunchbox. I mean, that's... So I will share with you that when I was younger, I had a crush on Optimus Prime.
That voice, I take it.
Who doesn't have a crush on Optimus Prime?
Yeah. That voice, man. I think,
Is that what it was?
It must have been for the ladies. I don't know. I mean, he stood out to me as like this powerful leader of the Transformers, but it had to have been that voice. And that voice actor, I think, passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, that's too bad.
And
they're kind of neat how they like fold up and then they whoop.
Yeah. Well, he was the big truck, so yeah. He was the big guy. But going back to like magic and still making things happen. What are some projects? What are some things that New Media Festival got during the quarantine? I mean, you did virtual events, I take it. And
okay. So a couple of things. There were surprises, right? There was, I know it's going to sound very, very simple. I know it's going to sound very simple, but there was a virtual reality piece called Manatee. And it was a manatee and you were swimming with it, but it was a real manatee. So you were like its buddy. And it was really magical for me, but it related to a story in my life. Is when I was in Florida once, I've always swam underwater a lot. With my eyes open. And I used to pretend I was a dolphin. So I would go in circles, right? And then I'd pop up out of a circle underwater. Well, one time I did, and there was this big face in front of me. So I screamed underwater because I didn't know what it was, and it was a manatee, but I frightened it. And so I always felt bad. So now watch the magic, right, of content. Here's this virtual reality piece. I'm now a grown adult, and you can see in my face that it's like, oh, I finally got to swim, with the manatee that I scared away. But then you go to, let me just put on my glasses for 1 minute, and let me just look up at my events page, because we had 119 new media films and content from 23 countries.
Wow.
There were 42 world, 6 US, and 42 LA premieres. So here's some of the cool things. Don McLean, the guy who sang and wrote Bye Bye American Pie, Miss American Pie, he came on and did a Q&A because he was in a podcast from Karina, Coffee with Karina. And then there was a feature-length film documentary called LIGO. And that was very scientific. Well, come to find out, while they were filming this documentary, they discovered, scientifically discovered gravitational waves. And they saw two I may be saying this wrong, wormholes, gravitational waves together. It had never been documented before.
Mm.
So now they became, Nobel Prize winners in physics. And so they attended the festival. So those were some nice discoveries. There was a beautiful socially responsible category, and it was shot in black and white, which was very interesting. And it was Black men, and they were telling the story of before I knew. And really it was before I knew, I'm going to put these words in, that being Black meant you were being treated different. But it was kind of like that manatee story, where you could see these grown men go back to their childhood in that moment when they realized things were going to be a little different. We had a gal, Samara Conley, who was 11 when she wrote a song, and she performed that. She just turned 13, like the week before our show, and she performed that live. There was a funny, it was a rough year for everyone, right? So I love these kind of conversations when I call my advisors and I go, all right, we got one in that's so wrong, but so right. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. And it was submitted in the pilot category, and it was called Loved Ones. And I'm just going to read the tagline for you. The inside of the hard side of funeral workers. But it was just really funny, like how they go and get a guy in the house, and you've got their kids who are older, crying. And then the woman goes to, give the guy under the blanket a hug one more time, and his body fluids come out. It may not sound funny right now, but it was funny in the execution. So that was like, okay, that's definitely different. We have a digital comic category, and this one was really beautifully done. And it's interesting because it's a Western. It says before Deadwood, before Tombstone, before Durango, Lead City. But it was a really great way to capture Westerns, film noir, and contemporary comics in a digital format. So those are just, some of the interesting things that we've had. And I'm only scrolling down. We had a 9th grade student submit something. We had content shot in the Arctic, Colombia. Oh, where else? There, it's up at the top. I'll tell you the ones that we weren't. So Arctic we never had before. Don't think we had, Namibia, Monaco, Qatar, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, Greece, Indonesia, Germany, China, Australia, so Russia, South Africa. So really fun, right? A nice diverse group of global people. So that's just some of them. I recommend everybody go to newmediafilmfestival.com, click the events page, and voila, you will have posters and info on each of the nominees. And then you'll also be able to click the award winners list. And there's a really nice downloadable graphic for you. And I say that because, you know, you can learn a lot by reading who won. You know,
Yeah.
what was the story about? Where were they from? How old are they? I mean, if a 9-year-old can do it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you submit in the student category and we know you're 9, we're going to give you a little leeway. But one of my favorite conversations on that particular piece was he has a goat, and the goat keeps repeating himself over like, and someone said there's a glitch in the video, and I said no, he's trying to show you what your brain does, because it was a student film about your brain, and so he was showing when the brain, you know, gets locked trying to get to the next section. I was like, it's kind of genius, you know, have the goat get stuck, because everybody starts looking and goes, why is the goat keep doing that? He got your attention.
Yeah. No, there was you know, there's been quite a few movies that came out, and you could tell they were quarantine productions.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Like all day long. And some even said it. This is a quarantine production.
Yeah, there was a Operation Rainfall with a lot of. It looked like a mock blast. The Operation Rainfall is about an alien invasion, and it looked kind of bad, like those mockbusters.
But was it so bad it was good? You know how sometimes they're so bad they're good? No. Okay.
I think it turned out okay, but there was a lot of folks in it that like were funny. What's his name? Kevin Chang from Community and Hangover.
Oh, so really, really big, some good names.
Yeah,
But
some
it's
good
not
names.
funny. It goes to show you, you can have good names in your film, but if it's not a good script, it's probably not gonna be good.
But for me, yeah, I didn't even finish the movie yet. I'm going to appreciate it still to an extent that they pulled it off. They made it happen. They want to make
something done. Yeah.
And they got some people in this movie anyway.
Right.
Because those people wanted to work and they wanted to make things happen during a rough time, social distance and COVID compliance. What the hell are they called now?
How
Because
about just shutdowns? I mean, different countries were shut down. Like, I have a client in Spain, and he has 2 children and a wife and a dog, and he was only allowed to take the dog out, no one else. And I said, you need to have your dog drink a lot more water.
yeah.
You can go outside more, because or you'd get fined. So craziness.
So going back to socially responsible, I think is the word you used for that.
Yes, that it's a category. If you say it fully, it's socially responsible content.
Okay.
But we drop the content because in 140 characters or less on social media, it takes up some space. So socially responsible. Yeah, so this year we only had 3, right? So we only program what matches the review process. Like you have to get X amount of points in order to get to the next stage. So if nothing came in that reached that, we wouldn't program anything in that category. So we had 3. One was that. One was equal parenting. It was a really cute animation about, just how the benefits of parents equally parenting.
Equal parenting.
Yeah, you want to look that up. Hold on. Let me just do responsible. Here we go. That's one. Equally shared parenting. The director is Emma Johnson, and it's a public education project launched on social media about when parents divorce or break up. Equally shared parenting. And then the other one, since we're doing this, was called, this one, I really loved this, but the filmmakers never responded once they were accepted. I mean, we would have loved to have had them on for a Q&A, but this one was called Green Up, and it's from the UK, and really cool piece about they took like vintage cars, classic cars, and then they turned them into, they're converting petrol propulsions to electric. And they use 3D printing, Connect,
Okay.
Raspberry Pis, and any secondhand part they can find. And they're gorgeous. So, I mean, they're three very viable, of course, family and children are important. Of course, the air and the environment and petrol to electric is important. And of course, you know, a society of, you know, being learning as a child that, you know, you're not just like, you're not being treated just like everyone else, right?
Yeah.
They're all important to those people in those communities. So we're very proud of those three. And we're also even excited that we have a new judge this year, and it's Dr. Maya Rockymore Cummings. And she, like, how cool is this? We gave our judges options. You can just let us announce the award. You can do a video of the award. There was another, I can't remember what the third one was. We'd create an animation of the award, whatever. And so she actually did her own award. She had the envelope and everything. Like, isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. And that's just, you know, finding ways of making this thing work.
Yeah.
You know,
And it was
through,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, like we had pre-taped. The other one was pre-taped. You could pre-tape it. You could do it live. You could do it live with us. You could pre-tape it, or we could do it for you. And so we had one guy do it pre-taped, and he didn't have the envelope, but he was still good. And then she did hers, and she had the envelope, which I just thought was wonderful because I didn't ask her to do that. And then another guy came on live with me. So we chit-chatted a little, and which was nice because I didn't plan on this, but we got to talk about why he was the right judge for that category, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't plan that either. So, you know, live is good because things come up in live that, you know, you just,
Yeah,
like magic, they just
absolutely.
come up. Yeah.
So, you know, speaking of what's coming up, you know, more and more transitioning to you, for me, and I always have this question towards, you know, towards the middle of this, is for me, the new year was March, not January 1st, but you know, we went on
March?
we went on
Why?
we locked down in quarantine March 12th, and we were like,
Oh,
okay, takes a year for vaccinations to come out at least. And you know, I think we got lucky, they were able to knock them out less than a year.
Yeah.
So March 12th, 2021, what's that going to look like? What are we going to be doing? Are we going to be back out in the field? So that's kind of like the new year for me. So now here it is, almost July. What's the new year looking like for you? What's the new Susan? What's the new year, new you, new normal, new you as of today?
Right.
Are you back on set?
I so love that you asked that. Okay, so I am more discerning about who I work with and what I work on.
Okay.
So I used to have a nickname called Safety Susan. I was VP of production for Big Vision Studios, right? And that was a wild, fun time. But, you know, I would say safety first. You have a live lion in the room. We don't add anything that's not on this list unless I make sure it's not going to cause an issue with that lion. Okay, because it may eat you before me.
Right.
Like, and that's how I would talk to these people that would just think they could do anything and not look at safety. So because of COVID, you know, I actually took a COVID class and I have a certificate.
COVID compliance officer?
Yeah, no, not the officer, but as a business owner, the California government has you take this online course. And honestly, I don't think they should give anyone a certificate because most of it was just general knowledge that you should know. But I did have a meeting with the COVID compliance officer, which was brilliant. And because she's also a friend of mine, she said, it's really just a dog and pony show. That temperature thing isn't going to tell you much because because the thermometer may not, the thing may not be working. You could have been under a hot light and it's off a few degrees or whatever, or you could have been in the air conditioned car or whatever. Obviously not all tests are accurate. Obviously not everybody tells the truth. Obviously you can make a fake identification card that you got vaccinated. I mean, these things happen in other parts of our.
I mean, the number one reason why people don't tell the truth is because they don't want to get stigmatized, and they don't want to get ousted, and they don't want to get blacklisted, and they're like, oh, he had it.
So maybe wouldn't it be a wonderful world if, when I'm wearing my mask, because just a week and a half ago I found out the limo driver that used to work with us when I was working with the Hollywood Reporter died and was vaccinated, and it could possibly have been the UK variant, and it's just a week and a half ago. And I'm like, okay, all you people, you can run around like COVID never existed, but I'm going to wear my mask. Do you know those people are so uncomfortable, they talk to me about it. Have you been vaccinated? Yes. I said, but I like my mask. It's a fashion accessory, whether it works or not. I really like it. I feel good breathing through it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Kind of like, leave me alone. Like, I don't ask you why you're not wearing one. So the stigma is on both sides, right? It's ownership that we are each innately a human being. Yeah. Think of a human being as a bubble in a bathtub of bubbles. We're all bubbles, and they're all doing their own thing. Some
they're
are
positive. They're all going to burst. They're all going to burst later. All our bubbles are going to burst.
But the point is we're all human beings, and that stigma is on both sides. I can lovingly wear my mask and empathetically understand that it makes some people uncomfortable. Sure. I don't need to raise my voice anymore. Talk to the East Coast Italian 4 years ago, you'd have a totally different Susan. But go through 18 months of COVID and at least 7 people dying, it's a different Susan, right? Yeah. So sure, I wear hand sanitizer. Sure, I wash my hands. Sure, when someone coughs, I still freak out, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just say, all those sayings we grew up as a child, and I'm saying it's an all or nothing statement, but most of us have heard, put yourself in other people's shoes, don't take it personal. I never liked those sayings. So now I want to say it this way. We're all human beings. We lovingly have a right to be who we are, as long as we respectfully understand that who we are and what we're doing will ruffle somebody else. We don't need to engage with that. Thanks for letting me know. Thanks for sharing, your view of things. Like I said to you earlier, I love that you gave me the other side of the coin when I made a statement. I'm like, oh, good, now I have a new view. I'm not saying what I'm saying is easy, but I'm saying now that I'm no longer, the East Coast Italian Susan, I know that I'm comfortable being me, and I know that I'm not hurting you. I'm potentially helping you. I don't need to explain it anymore. And I can make a cute comment about myself. It's a fashion accessory.
Right. Yeah.
Like, how can you get mad at me?
I mean, listen,
if I want to wear it on my head like a hat, I'll wear it on my head like a hat.
That was the big thing with for me and some and my partners. We did a lot of branded masks, just
nice.
There's some logos, there's some branding.
Well, hey, if you still have some, I'll wear them.
Okay. I'll send you a link. Yeah.
Okay, don't even laugh, but I literally yesterday, they have Johnny makes these silk masks. And they're gorgeous, but they're silk. And silk supposedly has been scientifically proven to be the more breathable and the better for any sort of pathogens going through, whether it's a common flu. Well, I'm going to be traveling soon. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to be traveling in style. Yeah. I better get my silk mask before they no longer sell them. So hilarious. I am probably the last person on earth that bought a package of 5.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
I'll be flying in style, and if someone doesn't like it, it's my accessory.
Again, it's one of those find the victory in some of these, sufferings. Find the pros in these cons, and I'm like, oh man,
Yeah,
I gotta wear this stupid mask. Well, hey, I'm gonna wear a Zombie Squad one. I'm gonna wear a
that's
Rogues
awesome.
Gallery, or wear a Dead on Pictures one. You know, whatever. Like, come up with all these
Such a
stupid
great
brand. And
idea.
someone's like,
Have,
what is it? And even more so, like people had these masks made that were exact replicas of their nose and down
oh, I didn't know that.
of their face.
Oh,
And
that
so
must have been weird
and
when
so
they
they're
talk.
so while they're walking into a grocery store and someone's like, where's your mask? And so it looks like they're not wearing a mask.
Oh,
And then
I
he
didn't
pulls
get
down
that.
he rips off his face, and it's his other face. Like, what do you mean? I got my mask on. He puts it back on. But the graphic on it is his exact face.
Wow, I hadn't heard that one yet.
Yeah,
I
it's
saw the ones that were clear, but then they got gross because your spit and your
and the
sweat would
fog,
get,
and yeah, the steam, and the yeah, it's fogging up. Yeah. But like yeah, there was some YouTuber
but I
doing
want to answer your question. So yes, we will be doing in person. We
back,
also are adding
back on
hybrid.
location, a hybrid. Yeah, and
Yep,
that's
I
another big
actually
thing.
got, I just got offered one feature length film from one person I worked with before, and I got offered three series, one reality, one animation, and one episodic from another person that I worked with. And they're all various things. I mean, you know, I'm a producer by trade. I own a production company. And so casting is a division, New Media Film Festival is a division. But what was really interesting about this is we are going to do hybrid this year, but we're purposefully going to program any of the content that's in these really different time zones. Like we found that like Namibia and China, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or 2:30 in the morning when it was like 8 o'clock our time. I'm guessing. But the point is that we'll schedule it so the people they know and love can see it and be
Yeah.
part of the festival without having to fly.
Well,
Because
hell,
I
I
really
mean,
don't think everybody's going to fly anymore. I don't.
I mean, it's going to be a lot less. But I mean, what's the big deal of having in LA your thing at 9 or 10 a.m.
Mhm.
and that would be
So John
1 p.m.
Strasbourg,
here, and then might be like 7 or 8.
I'll tell you what the
You
issue
know?
is. So
Yeah.
John Strasbourg, who's the son of Lee Strasberg, the actor's studio, God love him, but he got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. If you Google him online, he's older than me. That disruption, that sleep
Yeah.
disruption can cause an issue.
True.
Don't know that. Maybe we're asking someone to do a Q&A and watch a film and they've got a young baby at home and that disrupts the baby. Now you've ruined that cycle.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a baby back on a cycle. Who knows? Maybe it makes your dog, want to bark and go outside and wakes up the neighbors and you have a fight the next morning. I don't know. But what I learned is I want to be more considerate of where they are.
Right.
We can easily ask them, are you going to attend the festival? I mean, if they're clearly not going to come, but they're accepted, why not? Again,
Absolutely. Yeah.
we haven't done it yet, but it's an idea, and that's the direction we're going. And listen, the pandemic allowed us to try new things. We added NFTs this year. So we created an online gallery. We bought 4 NFTs. And so now I understand the market's a little volatile now, but we're still working with people to bring that market value up for their NFT artwork or creation. And guess what? They'll get residuals. They'll get residuals just like a union actor would. So
Nice.
yay. So that's what we got to do during COVID. Cool. I would
Yeah.
not have been able to do that if there wasn't COVID, because I would have been busy building an in-person festival, going to every event that was in town, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's an upswing from it.
And what's NFT? Clarify NFT.
Oh, sorry, non-fungible token. It's that new
Okay.
Bitcoin cryptocurrency craze where
Okay. Yeah.
I'll just use Tesla. You can buy a Tesla with your cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Hopefully it's like a stock market for, I want to say fake money,
Right.
money you can't see, money you can't hold.
Cryptocurrency. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, OpenSea is just a platform. I think it's is it Lazy? Lazy.com is owned by Mark Cuban. So
Mm,
he's working with non-fungible tokens. It's, oh, the art world, Sotheby's sold somebody's art for like millions,
yeah.
but you can't put that artwork on your wall. It's in the digital space. So it's on, you know, and supposedly no one else can have it.
Yeah.
You and I know that hackers can get whatever they want.
I get,
So
yeah, I guess they can. Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
rolling with it. You know,
steal your, the hackers can apparently steal your art now if it's digital art.
yeah.
So
Hey, so here's another cool thing that came from the pandemic. One of our successful programs was the producer panel and pitching. And we would have 4 or 5 producers up there. We did it kind of like a Vanna White style, like, you know, you had to sign the agreement that you owned the rights to it and you registered it because we didn't want unregistered stuff. And then you were in a gold barrel and we had a model, you know, pick out your name and, you know, and if you were there, you got to pitch live and they'd give you feedback. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of meetings. Well, this hadn't happened in 2020, right? Because of COVID. And we didn't want it to not happen again. But we also knew that people were kind of zoomed out and we didn't want to zoom out people for the actual festival. So we put the pitching online. And so now people can pitch 24/7. You know, we do it like you'd send it to us. We figure out which one it should go to because, you know, obviously some people are more interested in animation,
yeah.
some episodic, some are more feature. So we're like, that's awesome. That is another silver lining, you know, that came out of all this craziness. Why should they have to wait till next June to pitch when they can pitch now? What are we in? Oh, a year from now. Why should they wait a year to pitch in person when they can pitch now?
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I should use that statement.
Well,
But you know my phone's gonna ring in 4 minutes to tell me
yep.
I have to get off.
Oh,
So
I know. I
I'm gonna
know.
shut that off so you don't have to hear it.
Well,
What do you have coming up this year?
huh?
What do you have coming up?
Well, I signed an NDA for this gig. So
Nice. Okay, good. Don't say anything.
once the trail,
Wait, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
well, once the trailer's out or once we lock in a
Okay,
deal,
good.
once the IMDb's up and like I'm linked
Just send me a link. I'd like to see it.
yeah, but season 3 of Rogues Gallery is coming out Friday, and I'll send you a link to that. Maybe we can discuss the new media festival for our work. But season 3 of Rogues Gallery. Okay, so here's the 3-minute pitch.
Okay.
So you ever watch those crime shows on ID, on Reels?
Mhm.
Who Killed Jane Doe, Evil Twins, Evil Stepmothers, Nightmare Next Door, all those shows. So if Bruce Wayne went home, had a cocktail, and watched ID, what would he see on ID? What kind of crime shows and about who? And so we made a crime show, a crime reenactment ID type crime show based on one based in the DC universe about DC supervillains and one based in the Marvel universe about Marvel supervillains. And it's
That's fun.
the super low budget. You've got that criminologist or the psychologist or the law enforcement official that was a part of the case, you know, sitting against a green screen. There might be some graphics behind them. Then you got the dramatic reenactments. You've got the archive footage, the found footage, the crime scene photos, and all that, but set in either
It
DC
sounds
or
like
Marvel.
fun.
Yeah, and it's super fun, super easy to make, super fun. You know, we're diehard fans, and I just like to do these little videos. I mean, essentially, they're supervillain origin stories about B or even C level villains, like villains no one's ever heard of, and people are like, Shockmaster, who the hell is Shockmaster? And he's like a second or third rate Electro, but he uses electricity just like Electro, but he just never was really in all the comics like Electro was or something like that. You know, it's
Well,
goofy.
that's good.
Yeah,
You're bringing him up to the surface, you know, so
yeah,
people can learn about them. It sounds like a fun show. I'm
yeah.
glad that you're finishing it and making it happen. Is it possible if I could give a discount code to people if they on your show?
Absolutely.
So do you, it's kind of fun because remember Batman, they would have wow, pow.
Yep.
Remember? So it's wow, all capital letters,
Wow.
WOW. But see, you got it because you remember the wow and the pow, but that's where the reference comes from. So if they use that, they'll save 20%. And I encourage people to go to newmediafilmfestival.com, and at the bottom of the website page, just get on our free newsletter list. So for example, hopefully tomorrow, our newsletter is going to go out, and we've actually been asked by Broadway World for interview opportunities. So I created a Google form before you and I got on the podcast today, and it basically says, what's your title, especially if you've submitted in the last 13 years to us, because then I can easily retrieve it, and then give me the short pitch of why you should be interviewed, like what's your connection to Broadway World, and and again, that could be anywhere, the UK on the West End, Broadway, New York, it could, whatever. But that's a fun, free thing that we can offer the content creator community. Like, I mean, who's going to say no to really good press? I mean, they're about art and artists. So that's what we love to do. We love to empower content creators, and we are a global story and technology company. That's it.
Hell yeah, Susan Johnston. I can't thank you enough for coming on, and this was such a blast.
This was fun.
We rambled straight an hour and a half.
That's awesome. And we talked about everything. I love the stolen film story. Your person wanting it, and my person actually getting it, but I got mine back, and you didn't let yours go, so we're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Susan Johnston, New Media Festival. Let's see here. What else? New Media Festival. Susan Johnston, Media Futurist, and you said Broadway World.
You're reading some bio.
I'm reading all the notes you sent, but I mean, I know media. I know New Media Festival.
The Media Futurist part of it is I was actually on the speaking circuit for a couple of years. I was speaking about Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, the future of media, and I think the last place I spoke was Paris, France, and then poof, the world closed down.
I'm pretty sure you were absolutely 100% accurate on everything. It all happened because I've been, screaming about new media, TikTok. I jumped on TikTok when it happened. Like the way the future is going, and the way new media is coming along. I mean, even movies in theaters,
you can be everywhere. You can be everywhere. You no longer have to be in one little square box in a living room. Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
All right.
It's amazing.
So lovely to meet you on your podcast.
Absolutely.
When it's done, send me the link, and I'll spread the love and send it out in social media land.
Yeah. Well, Susan, can't thank you enough for coming on. We'll talk a little bit offline, and so just hang tight. To the viewers out there, if you want to become an honorary member of the Zombie Squad, send me some, hit me up on any of the socials. Send me the name that you want to be credited as a honorary member of Zombie Squad. Send me your favorite 1 or 2 profile pictures, avatars, what have you, your profile pictures on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and we can squad you up. I will make you an honorary member of the Zombie Squad, and I'll design all the stuff. I'll design a t-shirt, I'll design your logo, your whole Zombie Squad kind of profile if you want to be an honorary member of Zombie Squad, and give you the options to buy a t-shirt, to buy a phone case, to buy a pillow, to buy a tapestry, to buy a hoodie, to whatever the hell you want. But if you want to be an honorary member of the Zombie Squad, let me know. And
but they got to put in the work though.
All they have to do is send me 1 or 2 of their profile pics, and they'll be an honorary member of the Zombie Squad.